What's going on, guys? Aaron Guyette, Education Director here at Living.Fit, and we have the great pleasure and honor to have on the Living.Fit Show Miranda Alcaraz, and she's otherwise known as Fearless Miranda. Not only has she accomplished a bunch of incredible things, but right now she's got a movement. I would call it more of a movement or even like a revolution versus, just like a gym chain or some fitness stuff called street parking. And so we're going to jump into that. But before we get into street parking, how'd you get into fitness?
How did I get into fitness? I didn't grow up playing a lot of sports or anything like that. I do have 4 brothers who were pretty active, mostly in hockey and stuff like that. But I got into fitness through friends. In high school, I had some friends that would like to go to like kickboxing classes and stuff like that. Even more than that, my high school boyfriend, actually, his mom taught cycling, like spinning classes back in the 90s. And so I would go to her classes and I really enjoyed it. And then I went to school for something completely different, but continued just wanting to do fitness. And then eventually I started teaching some of those group classes as I was in school. And it just kind of spiraled from there and grew from there.
So what did you go to school for?
I went to school for interior design, which is like the opposite of all of it, I guess.
Which is why your background looks way better than mine, basically.
I think that there is an artistic element to being a coach and to designing fitness workouts and things like that. So, but yeah, I went to school for something completely different.
Yeah, awesome. But I mean, obviously making moves and doing pretty well in the fitness industry. So let's just jump right into it. Street parking. First and foremost, my most curious question is why the name or the title Street Parking?
Yeah, so street parking is a program that's basically not only, but for the most part designed for people who work out at home. And at the time when we created it, we had turned our garage into a gym and parked our cars on the street. So street parking became the name of our business. Yeah.
No, I love it. Yeah, that totally makes sense then. Let's talk through some of your kind of greater accomplishments in the fitness scene, right? I know you've got like an ab program. Talk a lot about postpartum, but then even like during pregnancy and workouts and things like that. Clearly, there's 85% of our audience. They're all, fitness enthusiasts, people just getting into fitness or people that have been into fitness for a while. And out of those, it's about a 50-50 split, women and men. And chances are there's probably some women that either are going to get pregnant, are pregnant, or have already been pregnant. So, what are some of the kind of tips or tricks or things that you've discovered and helped other women with?
Yeah. So I've done a lot in the fitness industry. I've been working in fitness since I was like 18 years old was when I started teaching group fitness classes, did personal training, was in like the bodybuilding scene for a little bit and competed in an NPC fitness competition back when they had the category where you would do like a full dance routine and everything with backflips and stuff. That was in my early 20s. Then I found CrossFit in 2008, and I was already a personal trainer, but just fell in love with it and ended up working for CrossFit for 8 years on their seminar staff, traveling the world and teaching that methodology, and had a gym for a few years in Utah before I moved to California. And then I competed as a CrossFit athlete, which is probably how I got, for the most part, how I got more well-known on social media. Because it, as the sport grew, I was growing along with it. So that was really cool. Overcame some injuries, got to do some really cool things within CrossFit. And then after I was done, right around the time that street parking was created, I found out that I was pregnant, and it was not a planned pregnancy. I thought that it was going to change the trajectory of street parking. And it did change the trajectory of it, but not in the way that I thought. I thought that it wasn't going to grow, that people didn't want to, get their fitness from the pregnant lady. They were hoping for the athlete, And instead, we grew a huge following of parents. And a lot of our members are parents or specifically moms. And it opened up a whole new audience for us. And like you said, like women are either planning on becoming pregnant, have been pregnant, are currently pregnant. Not everybody has kids, but a large percentage of the population does go through that at some point. And so being able to help people with having actual experience, because it is one of those things that it's hard to give advice if you've never done. Do you have kids?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We have 3 kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
So it's hard to relate to somebody who, if you haven't been through it. And so this it helped our community grow. And I think the biggest tool that we provide, so we do have resources for women within street parking who are currently pregnant or newly postpartum to help them to keep moving. I'm not an expert in that area. We have people on our staff that do that for us. I'm only an expert as much as I've experienced it now 2.5 times. I'm 15 weeks pregnant now. But I think it's an important thing to help women keep moving and give them the confidence that they can in most cases. And then the tools to rehab properly, because it's not an injury, but it's definitely a big body changing event that happens and should be treated as such. But I think in the past, and I do think it's getting better, women have been scared to do anything because they're meant to feel fragile, I think, a lot of times in those cases. And it's funny, you brought up the ab program. The ab program is actually not real. It's a spoof. It was an April Fool's joke where I acted like I was putting out an ab program. And when you clicked on it, it was me basically debunking a bunch of myths around what it takes to have a 6-pack. And also finishing the video by saying, like, even if you do achieve a 6-pack, if you're not happy in your job and you're not happy in your living situation and in your relationship, like none of that's going to change. It's not this miraculous thing that makes you have a happy life. So, but it was a very well played April Fool's joke that got a lot of people thinking that it was a real thing.
Well, and I think number one, it needs to be said, right? And number two, it probably still gets a lot of clicks, I would guess, right?
100%.
Yeah, and so then you're dispelling a bunch of the myths that everybody. I mean, that's a huge issue in the fitness industry, right? Is like, marketing is good, but a lot of times the marketing is just sort of this like false, romanticism or ideals that isn't really reality. It's not what happens if you're looking at like a, research-based or evidence-based approach. So no, I love it. I love it. It's awesome. So obviously you said you're pregnant now. I watched you given your kind of advice on fitness and still doing some sort of, exercise, while you're pregnant, clearly. But then, I will also say that you probably, and maybe we can discuss this a little bit more in depth, because I think there's something to be said about genetics, but then there's also something to be said about somebody's like mental toughness and resilience and ability to stay disciplined. And I think discipline and consistency wins out more often than genetics, but genetics always plays a role. So clearly you're blessed with some genetics. So let's talk about, do you think that plays a role? How much does that play a role in your own fitness? Also in the fact, that you were able to compete at a pretty high level or very high level. And then, also get certain positions or certain roles, right? Because of your not only fitness acumen and intelligence, but then also fitness physique, right?
Yeah, I think it's such a hard question to answer. Like, how much is genetics and how much is? And you hit the nail on the head with one word that you used, which is consistency, because that's one of our biggest messages. I think, again, like going back to fitness industry and marketing, is no one markets consistency. It's like this 12-week program or this cleanse or this like supplement that you're not intended to take forever for the rest of your life. It's always like this short. And the reason for that is because, people, that's what people want. They want to feel better tomorrow. They want to look better tomorrow. And I totally get it. That's what sells. But you don't see advertisements for like, you're going to have to do this for the rest of your life. Because that doesn't sound as appealing to people, you know? And so, but I do think it's hard to determine what percentage, because for example, I have 5 siblings, so it'd be easy to look at them and be like, well, here's your genetics. Well, the reality is we all look very different. So I have 2 siblings who have actually 3 siblings who have really struggled with weight, 2 siblings who are super duper skinny. And because I picked up an active lifestyle, and my nutrition wasn't great right away, but it's been a work in progress. I don't think that it was ever super terrible, at least not at an age where you would start to see issues from that. So it's hard to say what my genetics would have been. And I think that that's true for anybody who has a great physique. If they have a great physique, it's probably because they've been doing something for a really long time. And the only way you know for sure how much of it is genetics or not is if you were to take that same person and send them down a different path, which obviously we can't do.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but at the end of the day, like, I think people shouldn't worry about that and just see what their genetic potential is. And the way to do that is consistency. And so not worrying about like, well, are my genetics going to make me look like this person or perform like this person? Nobody knows the answer to that. The only way to find out what each of our potential is just to do our best and see, you know, and that best is better than any other alternative for all of us. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, that consistency is so crucial. I tell a story basically every time that I get an opportunity to teach, and most of the time I get an opportunity to speak, and I basically just like retell the Tortoise and the Hare story. I have a bunch of their books up behind me, because the tortoise always wins, right? In the story, right? The hare never wins, and the hare doesn't win because it's like sporadic and it's fast, but then it's not consistent, right? It's the steadiness of the tortoise that wins or whatever. And it's interesting, you know. Now I get to add this in because, you know, I heard you got to travel a lot and whatnot. So everywhere I travel, every time I travel to go teach or go speak or something, I always look for a used bookstore, and then I look for new versions of the Tortoise and the Hare. And one, I've got kids at that perfect age where I can like share it with them, but I know I'm going to keep these and share these with my kids, right? And then I get to share that story as well. And it's like, no matter what language you get it in, no matter what, you know, author rewrote the Aesop, you know, fable or illustrator redrew it, it's the tortoise winning every single time. So then that'll allow me to kind of change gears a little bit and talk a little bit about traveling. So, you know, clearly traveling is slowed. It's starting. Well, now I've been to the airports, and it's looking like it looked before COVID hit, which is crazy. But with that, are you still traveling as much? Are you not traveling as much? I know for me, like, I would much rather be a homebody. You know, I wish my 20-year-old self could experience the amount of travel that my 30-year-old self got to experience. Right? It would have been perfect, but just 2 ships passing in the night. So what about you and your travel schedule? What is that like now?
Yeah. So my heaviest travel was when I was working for CrossFit. I would travel almost every weekend. I think in 2010, I traveled 47 times or something like that, and learned a lot from that about maintaining a healthy lifestyle while on the road and eating at restaurants and working out in hotel gyms and things like that. Even before COVID, we were traveling a lot, not nearly as much as I was back then. We had our one son who is now, he just turned 4, and he would go with us everywhere. So we were traveling still, I don't know, 8 or 9 times a year or something like that. Since COVID, because I was pregnant when COVID hit, and then I had our baby early May of 2020. I think I've been on an airplane 2 or 3 times since then, but they're like overnight, really quick trips, like a business. We got to meet with somebody really quick and then come back. So no, travel has been, for my adult life, this is probably the least that I've traveled. And we would love to get back into it more. It was already tough to travel with kids, and now I feel like with some of the rules and restrictions, it's even more difficult. So we're waiting a little bit longer and keeping it minimal for now.
Yeah, we as in Living Fit we're kind of in that same boat. I mean, there's obviously certain business interactions and things like that we can do where there's a lot of controls and whatnot. So it's like, okay, we can do those trips, when it's like just our team doing like a video shoot or something like that, or doing specific work for a specific facility and whatnot. But yeah, I saw it looks like passport pages or whatnot behind you. It's like such a great.
So these pictures here, they're my passport from when I was traveling all the time. And that passport is now expired. So I had the pages blown up and turned into art for my office. There's the interior design coming out of this.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty cool concept. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And I just generally kind of looking at it, I was like, oh, that looks cool. But then as I looked at it more, I'm like, oh no, that's like those are passport stamps. Yeah, that's pretty rad. And so you were traveling the world then for CrossFit?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I got to, I know you were in the military, right? I actually went to Afghanistan and Iraq, both to coach some soldiers while they were deployed. But then also just like Sweden and Australia and the UK and a ton of places in South America and everything. And it was perfect. I didn't have kids and it was just what I did. And I traveled every weekend and trained during the week really hard to try to compete. And it was a really cool period for sure.
Yeah. So how has your teaching all sorts of different people in different places and then competing, how has that helped shape the programming and the coaching and the way in which you present when you're presenting your programming and coaching your programming and teaching people how to program your programming or work your program for street parking?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it impacts it in a couple ways. One is that you learn that to keep your coaching style very simple, because oftentimes we were in places where we had translators.
Mm-hmm.
And so the coaching cues have got to be very clear. They've got to be very short. We're using a lot of visual cues and just refining your coaching. I think that, we were even talking about this a little bit before we started today. People can get very technical when it comes to coaching movements that are technical, but you can also figure out a way to simplify that and be able to reach more people and help people process it a lot easier. So there was a lot of that I gained from coaching people from all over the world. The other thing that I gained that really helps with street parking is people have just completely different fitness abilities, and part of the big part of our program is being able to modify, we call it customize the workouts for all different fitness levels, all different equipment, depending on what people have access to, and going to different places and dealing with different populations. You really learn how to be really good at that. And then but the needs are the same. Like human bodies need the same thing no matter where they are. And just seeing that play out and seeing how fitness can change lives regardless of what the rest of their life might look like. Yeah,
that's the mainstay is the human and the anatomy, albeit can be drastically different person to person. It still works the same metabolically. It's still, I mean, even if it's drastically different, it's still the same, thermodynamic process. It is funny. It's interesting. People will be like, oh, I discovered this new thing, or I have this new movement. It's like, well, the elbow really continues to just bend the same way every time. Yeah. I mean, that's cool. But I'm guessing somebody's done that somewhere before. Maybe didn't call it that, but yeah, I love that. So then I noticed you're still working out. Is your program, so if they're, okay, I'm interested in street parking, this sounds good, I want to get involved, I want to, get hooked up with this programming, is it like single serving for each individual person, customized like you said, or is there sort of here's a general program and then we can customize that program down? And then how does that get offered? Is it, do they have to sign up, or is it something that they go to, or how does it work?
Yeah. So our goal is to provide programming, but also education and build confidence in the individuals in understanding it more. So one of the things that coaches do, and in a lot of ways this is great, but in a lot of ways I think it's more of a security blanket for them, is they need the clients to feel like they rely on them for, oh, well, I don't, if so and so is not telling me what to do, then I don't know what to do, so I need him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our goal is to provide, so we provide 3 different variations of the program, well, 4 different variations of the program, the workout every single day. So there is a main workout every day. One version is for people who literally all they have is a pair of dumbbells and they might be working out on their balcony or in their living room. And then one version is, hey, I've splurged and I've got a barbell and some plates, and maybe some space in my garage. And then the third is either somebody who has decked out their garage or they're doing these workouts at an actual gym with more access to equipment. And then the fourth version is for people, and this version we created about 6 months or a year in, is for people who uh, are not just beginners, but they might be returning from injury. They might be returning from pregnancy. Maybe they're in the older population. Some people will use this version of the workout for their kids. It's not a completely different workout. The stimulus that we're after is the same, but the movements are a little bit more simple. Maybe they're just using one dumbbell or one kettlebell as opposed to trying to, handle 2 of them at a time. Some of the movements are unweighted, where in the other versions they're weighted. And so we do provide that. And then it's not customized to the individual. What we provide, though, is coaching tips, videos, and written descriptions that go along with each one to say, hey, this is how long this workout should take. Like, here's a window for how long it should take. Here's how many reps you should be able to comfortably do in a row with good technique. This is how to figure out what weight to use. And if that's not happening, here's how to use one dumbbell for the same workout or change it or whatever. Here's how long each round should take. And then there's demos of all the movements and all the potential ways they could change the movement if they need to for injury or for equipment purposes or whatever. And what we want to help people with is like, hey, you don't have to do it exactly the way it's written. Here's kind of why we designed it this way and what we're after. Here's a bunch of different ways that you can achieve that same thing based on where you're at today. So, and then we have a bunch of accessory programs too. We have like a 5K program or a half marathon program. We have some powerlifting programs for people that like that. We have what's called dumbbell strength, which is like tempo training with dumbbells. We've got a body weight.
We have that really cool ab program in there.
Yeah, the really cool ab program, most popular one. Yeah, we have some stuff like that. We actually have some like yoga type videos. Those are follow along videos that we have a couple members of our staff who are yoga instructors. So there's more as well. And again, it's a term that we use a lot is fitness freedom. There's not one specific workout that's going to take you there. Like, again, it's just consistency. So find something that we offer that you enjoy or enjoy enough and do it over and over. And, you'll be fit as you need to be, unless you're trying to compete in something specific.
So there's not one program, but there is one pill. That's what I hear, right? I can just take a pill. It's all
at least 3 powders. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. And so they would go, they'd see you on Instagram, right? Fearless Miranda. Oh man, this is cool. Click your link tree. Okay, pops up. They go to street parking, brings them to, is it streetparking.com? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brings them to streetparking.com, and then they just sign up there, or they can do it there, or how is it a sign up for access?
Yeah, there is a sign up. We have a bunch of sample programming on that page, and also on our public Instagram. We post workouts all the time, sample workouts, and then our YouTube channel has a ton also. Mm-hmm. So if you want to see what the workouts look like, that's a really great place. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a sign up. It's $19 a month is for the whole thing. So we don't do like tiers or like where you have to choose which program you're going to do. Because again, fitness freedom, like if for 6 months you feel like only doing our sandbag workouts, and then you finally buy a pair of dumbbells and you want to use those and switch back and forth, that's totally fine. We don't want people to feel like they have to switch subscriptions and change all of that. It's too complicated. So everybody has access to everything.
Nice. We got to get you some battle ropes and kettlebells so you can do some battle ropes and kettlebell programs.
We do have kettlebells. That's why I was asking you about it, because we are interested in adding some kettlebell stuff. And then a lot of our members actually use battle ropes, and we help them figure out where to add those in based on the workouts, and how to like change movements that have a similar type feeling to their battle ropes. And we do that with like people who have random tires that they want to flip, or sleds that they want to pull or push.
Well, let's get your coaches set up with our battle ropes and kettlebell fundamentals course, and then awesome. And then they can go from there if they want to do advanced or whatever else. But the cool part is like, and shameless plug here, I apologize, but the kettlebell course is really, it's all about like technique and coaching and cueing. Because it's such a technical tool, like a barbell is so technical. So you got to understand technique. Otherwise, the chances of injury and the risk or whatever just goes up tremendously if you don't understand the basics of technique, even if you can simplify it, like you said, right? Whereas then the battle ropes, because they tend to coach themselves and they're a really low impact tool, it's all about programming and metabolic pathway conditioning. So how do you create certain stress to get certain adaptations? So it's kind of a cool way, even if people don't ever use the battle rope or the kettlebell, for them to learn, technique and programming. So I'm sure all your coaches know all that stuff, but it's a good little brush up and then the specific tool. So we'll make sure we hook you up. We'll make sure we hook you up.
Kettlebells they're a fantastic tool. We have a lot of members. My husband, actually, he really likes doing a lot of our dumbbell workouts with the kettlebells because they're so much more challenging in various ways. So yeah, that's why I asked you about it, is because we are interested in getting some of our coaches to do some kettlebell certifications and stuff. So
yeah, well, we have some, and we have, again, I don't want to make this about me. This is about you. This is about streetparking.com, streetparking.com, but we might as well because we're here. So yeah, we have some live stream courses coming up, and live stream is obviously going to be better than the pre-recorded. The cool part is you get access to the pre-recorded courses as well. So you can do the live stream and then you can resource and reference the pre-recorded for the rest of existence, right? As long as we have them. So yeah, we'll make sure that we get your coaches to our, and it looked like you had quite a few coaches. Like, is that 8 or 10?
Yeah, so it started out as myself and my husband, and then one of the girls that I competed with back in the day, she's our head of nutrition. And so she's with us. She's also a coach. And then we have 2 other full-time coaches that are here in Washington with us in our office. And then a couple other part-time coaches who live in other places but help us out. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, so then when I send that email that you're going to forward on, I'll make sure I include links to get your coaches set up. All right. So streetparking.com, they sign up, right? They sign up, they $19 a month, or maybe they kick the can down the road for a month or so, looking at your free content on YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. Then they decide to sign up, right? They're a couple of months in. So how are they directed? How do they know what to do? Who they are? Is there some sort of like assessment process, or kind of like you said, there's an education piece to it? Is there some sort of education video like, hey, if you're looking to do this, then maybe think of this program, or how does that work?
Yeah. So actually one of the coaches reaches out to them when they first join. They fill out some questions when they're joining as well, to give the coaches like, hey, this is what this person said their goal was, and things like that. And then they reach out with some suggestions on kind of where to start. And it can be an open conversation too. A lot of people, will join and be like, oh, I've done this type of fitness before. It's just a different program, and they're off to the races and they don't need a lot of guidance or help. But then if it's somebody who's like, this is a completely new type of fitness for me, we do have some like beginner programs where it's like, hey, I think it's 8 weeks, maybe not even 8 weeks. It might be shorter than that, to teach some of the movements. And it's virtual. Of course, it's not ever going to be the same as it is with an in-person coach. But where they're focusing and learning kind of 1 or 2 movements at a time in a session, and then putting those into a workout before they move on to that kind of more beginner, more simplified program. And so we do have some on-ramp type programs for that group for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's absolutely essential. Right. And it's cool when somebody has a older training age, right, where they've trained enough times where it's like, okay, yeah, just give me the dang program. And there's a lot of people that are like that. Right. But it is nice to have those extra, touches for the person that's like, man, I'm lost. I don't know what I'm doing. And so speaking of lost, I don't know what I'm doing. It looked like you have, is it one brick and mortar? Is it more than one brick and mortar? And then are you doing?
No, you're probably seeing our garage. That's literally our home.
Nice.
Yeah, we have no actual locations. Our whole staff comes over and works out at our house.
Ah, that's what it was.
We
Okay.
film everything here, and it looks like a little small gym.
Yeah.
It's a 3-car garage. That's basically just it is. It's a small facility.
Yeah. No, I mean it's awesome. And then when there's bad weather, you just close the garage door. Get in there.
Yeah,
get after it.
We live in the Pacific Northwest, so it rains a lot.
Oh, okay. So for whatever reason, I was thinking you guys were in New York, but I think it's because I looked up street working and not street parking or something like that originally, and so then because I was like, oh, street workout, street working, what was it? There was like a New York based company that helps actually homeless, which I thought was super cool, but I was like, this is not it. So then I was thinking New York, but Pacific Northwest, where at?
Yeah, we're in Washington. We're about 30 minutes north of Portland.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Yeah. So I'm shoot east. I'm in North Idaho.
Oh, I didn't realize you were in Idaho.
Yeah, I owned a gym and sold it in Southern California after I got out of active duty Marine Corps, then did reserve Marine Corps, continued to do reserve, moved to NorCal. Then that was when I was teaching with On It and teaching for Equinox and all this stuff. And then signed on with Living.Fit as their education director in NorCal. And then have since moved to North Idaho, which is where I was born and raised. I mean, can't get better than the Pacific Northwest. It's beautiful, No,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Well, shoot. I think that then there's at least a few, if not, tens of thousands, hopefully, of people that are like, man, this will work. And this is awesome. Streetparking.com. Check you out at Fearless Miranda. So this is something that we ask all of our guests, like kind of the last question. And it's the concept, or what is your definition? What is the Fearless Miranda definition of living fit?
Man, I would say I like that the word living is in there, because I think so many people, and I've been there, so many people allow their lives to revolve around being fit that they stop actually living life. And I think one thing that becoming a parent has given me is just a realization that you can't live that way your whole life. I mean, I think it is a reason why people are so on and off and hot and cold with fitness, is because the way that they think about it is it's got to encompass so much. And so living fit would be living your life in a way that allows you to be as healthy and fit as possible without it detracting from your life. And it really can be so simple. That's not to say that it's easy, especially if it's not something that you're used to. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't need to be time consuming. It doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be complicated. And that's something that we're hoping to show for sure.
Yeah, and I think you guys have done an incredible job with that, with streetparking.com and the whole concept that you guys have put together. So, man, I'm just so honored to have you on the show. Appreciate you taking out the time to share a little bit of your passion, a little bit of your purpose, a little bit of what you're doing. So thank you so much, Miranda.
Thank you.